Hello everybody and welcome along to Below the 38 Football Adventures in South Korea, and we have a rare treat for you today. I'm Andrew and I'm joined by Mike, and we are in a lamb skewer restaurant enjoying some lamb skewers and our mate Mekju here as well to preview the upcoming weekend of K-League 2 football. If you check your our YouTube account, you'll see the weekend that was with Luke, myself, and Mike, and there'll be a K-League 1 preview show coming up at some point this week as well. So this is specifically geared towards K-League 2. How are you feeling?
I'm absolutely fine. I'm on the waters, so let's just dive in because we've got a huge fixture really to kick off this coming weekend.
Yeah, so like as we were saying on a lot of the podcasts recently, it feels like the K-League 1 fixtures are getting better, more significant. The last week we got a 4 out of 6 really good. In K-League 2 we're sort of lucky to have 2 or 3 fixtures that are A-list, but the weekend starts off with a genuine A-list fixture. And that is Suwon FC against Daegu. Of course, these were the two sides that were relegated from K-League 1 last season. The last time they met would have been in the top division. They're sitting 3rd and 4th at the moment in K-League 2. They've enjoyed different starts to the season. They both score a lot of goals. Their games are generally quite exciting. Daegu come into this game at the back of a miserable 3-3 draw with Gimpo, having thrown away 2 leads. But Suwon FC come into this in the back of a comprehensive defeat in Mukdong. How are you feeling about this one?
Well, it's quite interesting that Daegu haven't won in 3 now. So they started promisingly and then they've kind of fallen off big time. Suwon FC, they had a 100% record until they went to Mukdong. They've actually played 1 less than Daegu, but sit higher in the table. This is a really interesting one. Most significantly, it's not at Forest Park, so obviously Daegu have to travel, but not too difficult, I guess, maybe to get up to Suwon, given the rail links, etc. And I think Daegu's crowd advantage could count, but it's a very, very decent away end to the pitch, let's face it, at Castle Park.
Yeah. It should be a good crowd. I mean, 2 o'clock on a Saturday, the weather looks like it's going to be 22 degrees or so at that time. And it's a championship contending match, so you'd imagine that you'd hope there's going to be a big crowd at that. And Edgar is having a great season for Daegu, twilight of his career. If somebody is going to score a winner for Daegu, you'd be just as well putting your money on him. So Suwon FC 4 wins from 5, a goal difference of +4. Daegu 5th. 2 points behind Suwon. They have a goal difference of 0 with 13 goals scored, 30 goals conceded. An amazing start to their life in K-League 2. I think in terms of excitement, entertainment, you're not going to find a better game than that in the second division this weekend.
In fact, Daegu could fall as low as 9th if they don't pick up a win away at Suwon on Saturday. So Daegu could be in absolutely dire straits here. So could Suwon FC without a win, but they have started strongly. So 2 defeats in a row wouldn't be too much of a disaster. Blue Wings, though, they host Gimpo, and that could prove to be a difficult game.
Yeah, I think Gimpo are probably better than what their table suggests. They're down in 9th, 2 wins from 5 matches. They're playing almost all of their first 4 months of the season away from home. So if they're able to get themselves into playoff contention by the time they return to Salta later on this summer, that'll be massive for them, because it can't be easy. You go back and train, you wake up the day before the match, you're on the bus again to go somewhere far away, you go back and train, you're on the bus, training somewhere else. It's obviously very hard. They are met with the biggest disadvantage in K-League 2 at the moment. So the fact that they are competing, I think, is a really good sign. The Blue Wings, of course, lost first spot to Busan last weekend. So this is, I mean, it's not crucial, but they'll need to get back to winning ways. I think they'll need to actually produce a good performance for a change. We haven't seen a good one so far this year.
Blue Wings are at risk of, when you become an engine of a team, if the components of that engine lose the oil, whatever the metaphor might be there, Blue Wings haven't been assertive enough to necessarily dominate the league, not in the way that Incheon did last year. So Blue Wings really need to get the mojo together here if they're going to march back into the K-League 1 at long last.
The big thing about the Blue Wings is the fact they've only conceded 1 goal so far, and that was in the first half against Seoul E-Land, which was their toughest match of the season so far. Gimpo at home, you probably suggest this could be their second toughest game so far, but when you look at the fixture list coming up, there's much bigger ties for them later on this month and into May, so they need 3 points here because there's a danger they will drop points at the end of this month.
So there's a real chance to see if this turns into a bit of a ding-dong, or it could. Do we really have boring Blue Wings this season? Now here's a fixture that you may not have thought would have been a big one for round 7, and that's Paju Citizen hosting Seoul E-Land. Because E-Land didn't have a great start to the season, but they've just sprang back into life. Some of those players that possibly should have potentially fired them into K1 last season, they were performing, but the rest of the team wasn't performing around them. But that's all seemed to have slotted into place now. They've got 2 wins in a row. They gave Suwon a shellacking last weekend, 3-1. Suwon FC, that is, not the other one. But Paju, they've got 3 wins.
3 out of the last 4. Yeah.
So.
And they're scoring goals. They are conceding some goals, but they're scoring some goals. And I think with Paju, like we said in the podcast on Monday, when the new sides joined K-League 2, everybody thought it was going to be Yongin because of their heavy recruitment in the winter. And yet it's Paju who are sitting just outside the playoff spots at the moment. That would be an incredible story. And like you keep thinking, well, it has to eventually slip away. It must. But they're still hanging on there. But they did lose to Suwon FC away recently, so against a higher caliber team, I guess we'll get a real good sense of where they're at.
I think this might turn into the pick of the weekend for a neutral fan looking for any K2 game to actually tune into. That's but it is scheduled at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, Korea time. It's not ideal for tuning in, but it could be the pick of the weekend. Looking through the other fixtures, league leaders. Let's get it into your head. League leaders after 6 rounds of Busan iPod, written off by just about everyone, except me on the week that was, much earlier in the season, that is. But anyway, they've got 5 on the bounce, and they host winless Yongin. Are Busan going to continue their march?
Yeah, I'd say it'd be a major shock if they don't turn Yongin over. I think Yongin have been really disappointing since they've joined K-League 2, just based solely on the amount of money that they spent. So to see them down in 16th, win this 3 draws from their 6 matches, like they've already conceded 11 goals, and they're coming up against a team that's scored the most in the division so far. It doesn't look good. It looks really dodgy. I still think, I said this on the weekend that was, I think Busan will eventually fall away. I just don't think over the course of a long season, a squad like theirs, without any genuine top-class talent in this division, I don't think they can maintain this. But the thing is, they don't have to win the league. They don't even have to come second. They just need to finish 3rd. And this is a great opportunity to stay 1st, because the Blue Wings are not going to destroy Gimpo. So if Busan win, they will be top going into the next weekend.
Another team that's begun to threaten the playoffs, are Asan, and they're hosting winless bottom of the league Gimhae. Do we see anything other than Gimhae's miserable form continuing as they head to the Eastern Chin Stadium?
Played 5, lost 5, scored 3, conceded 14. Goes without saying, they conceded the most number of goals in the league. Cheongnam Asan are surprising a lot of people. Cheongnam Asan, remember, nearly got promoted a couple of years ago. They took Daegu right to the end of the second leg in the relegation promotion decider. They fell off dramatically last season. It seemed like they couldn't even pay their players, but they were paying their players late. But they might have gotten their house in order now, and they are 6th.
Right.
Paju are 5th, Asan are 6th. I don't even think the most hardcore fans of the clubs would have imagined that at this point of the season.
I mean, some of the story last season, of course, Asan, they initially reported as they misbudgeted, but actually a lot of the problems there were redirection of funds because there were some really terrible ecological disasters in Asan last season, which had an impact on their season. But you know, they've crept in. I would say that they're currently joint 6 with identical records with Paju. I would say they were somewhat fortuitous against the Greeners
Here we
on
go.
Sunday. However, a team that makes the best of a situation and takes their chances, they're the kind of teams that do actually get promoted or at least get in there of a shout. So Asan could well be in the promotion conversation by the end of the weekend. Now, a lot of the other fixtures, some of the less exciting ones, Hwasong have played winless. Not winless. Hwasong and Jeonnam Dragons after 6 games are both on 1 win each. They play each other.
It's gonna be a draw.
The ball might just explode in protest at that fixture, much like Cheonan City against Cheongju, because Cheonan are actually, they've only lost 1 game this season.
But they're not scoring any goals.
Yeah.
They're not conceding any
No.
goals. They're all
Right.
low-scoring draws everywhere.
They're 5 for 5 after 5 games, which is in the pipe 5 by 5 if you like Alien. But I don't know, Cheonan, they don't have a big crowd, etc. But I kind of have respect for Cheonan because they've been going for decades. It's a long-standing club. It has at least football history. But if Cheonan get a win, again, at least that will give some positive to the season. Cheongju still without a win, but 4 draws. They don't seem to have any. I mean, 7 goals, 11 goals conceded. There's some energy in that team.
There's a bit of energy there. It is worth remembering as well that their most recent performance was a 0-0 draw against Suwon Bluings away. So they are going to come into this game on the back of a clean sheet in Big Bird, which is obviously pretty cool. Cheonan City versus Cheongju, it's not quite a derby. They're in the same province. I don't know, it's about an hour away from each other. They both have a stop on the KTX. Cheonan, Asan and Osang Station, but from Osang it's a bit of a drive then to Cheongju. So that's not going to make any difference. Don't think just because it's a provincial derby that's going to be 15,000 people showing up to China for the game.
Tackles flying in.
There might be 3,000 people in there.
And of course, another team pushing for promotion. Probably sitting in 8th, but a win, as I said, they could leapfrog Daegu if they don't win against Suwon. And that is Songnam. And they host Asan Greeners, who after a bright start to the season, I would say Asan haven't been comprehensively outplayed this season. However, this probably looks like a Magpies win, and I think Magpies might be sitting quite pretty. Come the end of this weekend, the neon magpie, those bulls will be flashing many colours.
They'll make an appearance.
If you do visit South Korea for football, if you're tuning in from abroad, you must go to the away end at Songnam. I'm not going to tell you why, but the first time you're in that away end, you may see something you've never expected in your lifetime. It's a thing to behold. And of course, Songnam, at least the previous iteration of Songnam, had so much history in Korea. So some might argue that it's about time Songnam had a shot back at going back to the K-League 1 anyway, right? So
Unfortunately, Songnam are just one of those teams as well that can't find enough wins. They're obviously really difficult to break down. They're really difficult to defeat. In fact, they haven't even been defeated so far. But in 5 matches, 2 wins, 3 draws. They don't score a lot of goals. They don't concede a lot of goals. They lost basically their entire team that probably would have gotten promoted last season had their 2 best players not gotten injured. The 2 best players ended up signing for K-League 1 clubs in the winter time, FC Seoul and Busan. Those players are now gone, plus pretty much an entire other squad. The manager does an unbelievable job just getting dealt a really rough hand every year and still turning them into playoff candidates. So I'd love to see Songnam push their way into the top 4, top 5, give themselves a chance. As we saw last season in Busan, it's like they only have 2,000 or 3,000 regular fans that will go to Chanchan and watch them play. But because of their history, because of the size of Songnam in general, I think there's a lot of disillusionment there, but there's a lot of fans who are sleeping on it at the moment, and they will return if the good times return to Tanchan. So you can't say that about pretty much every other team below the top 4 in K-League 2 at the moment. So it would be great if Songnam were able to make a push this season.
So quite a lot of excitement in the K-League 2 actually. Only the top 2 teams look likely to break away from the pack, and that pack goes all the way down to the 15th place in the league. The chaos probably will continue into next week, so as the K-League 1 begins to cement itself into its usual
the big 4.
Yeah. Stay tuned for more on the K-League 2.
Yeah. Anyway, stay tuned to Below the 38. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll have more videos going up this week. Actually, I haven't finished going through my album from the Anyang versus Incheon game. I don't think I'm going to a match this weekend. I might go to watch one in K-League 1, but family issues are probably going to have to come first. And you don't think you're going to a game either.
Again, family duties, responsibilities. If I can get to the Tanshan, I'll be there to say that. If I can get to the Tanshan, it'll be my 97th Arenas game. And maybe the 57th defeat, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't have the information for me, there's no point checking. But I get the feeling too that Seoul versus Jumbo Hyundai Motors is at the same time as Suwon against Daegu. Seoul E-Land against Daegu, which is just an extraordinary mishap if that happens to be the case. Stadiums are about 5 kilometers apart. There's no reason why they should be on at the same time. You would get people like me and many other people who would love to do a double header on Saturday, but I think the 2 Seoul-based teams are playing at the same time, the same day.
Because there's no fixture alterations like we see in Europe as much in the K-League. In fact, if you're watching this, when's the last time you watched a K-League game? That would probably explain why they do it with fixtures on TV. But anyway, scheduling issues are a major problem in Korean football, and that's another topic for another time. So
that's it for Below the 38. We'll be back on Monday for the weekend that was. Thanks for watching again, everybody, and we'll see you next week.